what? You can put it on your resume. Won a rap battle in a bar. Because guess what? You're still going to your minimum wage job tomorrow. It's not going to help you at all. Sorry, I'm not mad at you.
How often do you do this and no one knows what you're talking about?
Pretty consistently. I used to be homeschooled. If I didn't follow my train of thought or laugh at my own jokes, no one was going to.
You adopted or something?
I was, yeah. 13 months. I was called and corrected about it today.
All right, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Every Dad podcast right here. And we're excited to be back. We got Blake. We got Ty back with us. I'm Ryan. This is Rob. And hey, before we get started, though, we'll just jump right into the episode. Is that okay?
Yes.
Thanks.
I approve.
This is going to be a fun one.
Before we get into our episode, one of the previous podcasts that was posted, it was just you two guys, and y'all were talking about new time dads, first time dad, new time, first time,
new
time
for the first time, dads.
new for the first
Help,
time.
I'm
dads.
a new dad.
Yep.
Help, I'm a new dad. Thank you.
New for the first time.
I'm super in tune to what we're doing.
This is gonna be a good one.
So, but Rob and I were here, and so I know Rob, you got some things that you kind of want to add to that.
Yeah,
so
I got some stuff I always tell new dads, and in preparation for that one, I was planning to be a part of it, and it just life happens. So one thing that mattress on the couch that they give you in that room, it's not comfortable. Be prepared. I don't care.
You had a mattress. I had a chair.
I did.
Can we give a little context though?
twins.
Like, so they were talking about the birthing moment, right?
Yes.
And just everything that happened, just kind of chaos as being a new dad. So you're talking about in the room,
in the room,
hospital room.
yes,
Okay.
in the
All right.
room, in the room.
Context
like
is key
post-delivery
sometimes.
room, the one you're going to be in there like 1 to 3 days or
I got
whatever.
you.
That the couch converts into a bed allegedly. It's not comfortable. If you are cold nature, you will still freeze. The thermostat in there is a placebo. I had that confirmed by nurses. It's not going to heat up
Is
in
it
there.
really?
It is. At least at
what
night
does that
it is.
mean?
That it's not at night. They try to keep it cold so the night shift nurses don't fall asleep. Like it's going to be cold in
So
there.
it's not you're not changing.
You're
it.
not.
You may
you're
think that
not
you're
doing
changing it, but you're
anything.
not.
Yes.
Oh,
Placebo
wow.
pill, like mentally, you think, oh, I took this pill, so I'm
Yeah.
feeling
Yes.
better. So
Lies.
So after our first child, our house was being renovated after the hurricane, and I went home to check on the construction. I went home to get like 3 hoodies and a blanket because I've never been that cold in my entire life. And then I've never been more judged than when I tried to get some food off of her tray. That food's not for you; it's for the mom. And they only care about
not for
they
you.
only care about
I'll
the
slap
mom.
you all day if you're not
Yeah.
if you're touching stuff
Yeah.
you're not supposed to touch.
But I would say too, have a dad bag. Like you're going to be there to support the mom. You're not going to be able to support mom and baby if you're not taking care of yourself. So have a dad bag. They're not going to feed you. You got to feed yourself. And then too, like when it comes to like those first weeks, there's going to be appointments and all this stuff. Like having a plan beforehand. Being able to you got control in all of that. Like prenatal. Pediatric appointments is one thing that figured that out the first time in. Like you can shop around for your pediatrician and stuff like that. So you're not like just stuck with who was on call that day. You can choose. So that's one thing a lot of people don't know. They always make sure to tell them because it was news to me when we first went down that avenue. And then the biggest thing that I wanted to share was I think it was like I'd been a new dad for like 3 weeks and like my parents, my wife's parents are in town, so we have support, but then just the support of the church, like that community that we had just coming alongside of us. Like I remember like people truly meaning it, like when they're like, hey, how are you doing? And they really meant it. Like no, for real, like how's it going? Like you're got a lot of new, very easy to be new stressors. Like,
Right.
How's it going? What can we do? And really mean it. And so just having that community just kind of prove itself, so to speak, and just come alongside. And even farther down the road, like a seasoned dad, come alongside and be like, hey, man, just let you know I see it. Like, you're doing a good job. And, like, I can hear that from my dad I can hear that from my father-in-law, and it'll hold a little weight, but they have to love me to a certain extent, you know. But
Father-in-law does not have to love you.
well, I'm pretty awesome then, I guess, because he does.
I would say that's true.
And then thank you.
My
But
comment
to
is coming.
have somebody come
Oh, okay.
alongside and just say that, like I'll never forget that moment.
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow.
Fun
Like,
fact: our dear producer Debo and his lovely wife Katie. I think our friendship was kickstarted because you guys brought us. It was Chick-fil-A. You know, you get like a little food train going. We brought Danny home, and that week we were showered in love from friends in our small group at church, and we knew each other, but didn't know each other well. And you guys signed up, and Katie showed up to our door with a big old bag of Chick-fil-A, and then not long after that, they had a kid, and I'm like, well, I got to buy them Chick-fil-A. So we went to their house, and I think that really kind of kickstarted our, you know, the friendship we have now. So.
Yeah.
Did y'all find that y'all drove different after you had a kid?
Yep.
That's actually, I love that you said that, because I remember telling myself, I think I may have said it as a joke on the podcast already, but I remember telling myself, I'm never going to speed again. And I'm telling you right now, when I was driving, it was like, we got this. Like,
And
it-
everybody else around you seemed like they were just trying to hit you.
Everybody's a horrible driver.
Yes.
yes,
That
Yeah.
first ride home.
that's real.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So out of that, though, I mean, a lot of, you know, really good points. And the one that I want to just kind of talk a little bit about, though, and really, as we were kind of framing where this conversation would go, was on that community aspect. Because I do think that's a super important thing. And I hear more and more dads, especially when they become dads for the first time, they just talk a little bit about how their group kind of naturally shifts. Mm-hmm. I'll never forget, there was a time, it was right before we were about to have our first kid, and there was a friend of mine who wasn't even married yet, and I'm hanging out with him, and then like right as we're about, so the week before I think Liam's born, and he's like, all right, man, I'm going to be going out of town, and, you know, I'm not going to see you for, you know, probably a week or so, and so I think this is probably going to be it for us. And I was like, what? Like, LOL? Like, I'll see you in just a couple weeks? Like, you're going on, like, and I'm telling you, he looked me in my soul, and he said, and this is a drastic example, but he goes, dude, I'm not ready to have friends that have kids.
At least he was honest.
Wow. And I'm telling you right now,
That's
I watched him get in the car. It was like Charlie Puth playing "See You Again," and I watched him drive off. It never came back.
You got to respect
That was
the
end of-
self-awareness.
that was the
Though.
end
That's
of our
incredible.
friendship.
Bye.
Oh, I haven't talked to him since, other than not
Are
on
you
not on
serious?
his end. No, his name's Cody. I'm not giving you his last name, but I'm telling you right now, I can give you after this the exact story and the details, and probably even show you the messages of where I'm like, bro, you good? Like, where you at? Nothing. He was not prepared to have friends with kids. That was not on his bucket list at the point. And I don't know if I'm telling you.
That's
and so,
crazy.
you know, again, drastic example, but our friendships and the chapters
Yeah.
of our life with every new chapter.
I don't know what to say to that.
Well,
comes
that's
new
like
friends
that's
and new
real
opportunities.
That's like level 10 on it, but like that's real. Like your friendships do change. Your community will start to change. People love you and are there for you, but if they're not in it, they don't understand.
I think you'll
so to
find too,
speak.
and I mean, obviously this was in Cody's hands. He made that decision pretty clear. But I, as a dad, you've got new motivations, and hopefully, if you're self-reflective, you realize my responsibilities have changed, my time commitments have changed. So you probably will hopefully start, if you're not already around a good circle of people that are good influences and want the best for you in your life and your family, I think naturally you're going to start looking for that anyways.
Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know if it would be described. I mean, for me, I almost felt kind of this like season of maybe like isolation a little bit. And I know, you know, I'd be interested to hear if you guys kind of felt that or not. But, you know, again, as your chapter is just drastically kind of changing, you've moved from this position where, you know, everything is kind of centered around you and your wife, and you've just got some free time, and you're kind of really thinking through, yes, making sure that your wife's, you know, you're spending time with your wife and you're doing things with your wife in, you know, maybe a relatively new marriage. But then all of a sudden, you know, your time commitments and your responsibilities and everything kind of starts to shift. And again, you know, we just talked about how kind of your friendships change. Like in that season, I mean, did you guys experience maybe like what could be described as isolation? Like how did that process look like as you were, you know, trying to develop community? Did you find like the people that you know, just naturally started to gravitate towards change as kind of you had new needs and new new things? Like what do you think?
So I'll answer that from the old guy perspective,
Okay.
right? Because it's been a long time since I've had a new child. You know, we were married 7 years before we had a child. And so we were already in this routine. I was kind of in a pretty demanding job that didn't give me a lot of time off. And so looking back, like I don't remember all the new dad stuff that you were talking about. Like I don't remember the hospital room being cold. I remember I had to work in the hospital room. Like I'm working for the hospital that my kid was born in, and I'm having to work as my wife and my child are there. You know, we had family in town that could help, but you know, I remember getting back into like my routine pretty quickly, and where I probably failed as a father and a husband is I didn't probably recognize what all not my new wife, but my wife as a new mom was going through.
Yeah.
But, you know, where you had somebody walk out and go, hey, I'm not ready to be friends with a new dad, which is astounding to me,
Right.
that he said that. You know, we had really good friends that just stuck. And they were, you know, where friends were almost like family, because we didn't have a lot of family in town. Her family was in town and they helped out a ton, but you know, we had friends that almost became family even as we were going through navigating what it's like to be a new parent. I went back to job. I went back to normal routine. She was trying to figure out if she wanted to go back to work or not. So our story is probably a little bit different. Like we didn't have that isolation. If you ask my wife, she probably felt that.
Sure.
So looking back, that's where I failed as a husband and as a father, not recognizing, you know, she was at home dealing with a lot, trying to figure out she's now got a human that she's having to take care of. And, but we didn't as a family unit,
Sure.
we didn't feel isolation.
I don't. The whole thing's a blur. So Frank, now I'm sitting here trying to remember. I'm like, man, that first month or so, it goes by so fast. It's kind of hard to remember. I mentioned we had, like, you know, you get the support of your friends and from church, whether it's the food train. So I always felt the love and support. So I didn't feel isolated from a perspective like I'm alone in this. I do remember Ashley and I, and we had this conversation long before Danny was born. There was like this immense desire to be protective of that moment and that time for us as a couple.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of people there's a lot of different family dynamics and pressures. We both have wonderful families and wonderful relationships, but we both decided like we want to do this together and make sure we're not pressured by family or friends to get involved where we don't want them to. And that might sound bad saying that, but it was because we wanted that experience to be ours. It's our first child. These are our memories. And so it started with the hospital and some difficult conversations on like, Ashley and I are the only ones that want to be together at the hospital to be through. Because if even the feeling that they might be there waiting on us was a potential pressure point for Ashley on like when it's going to happen or how it needs to happen, or just knowing people might be concerned. And then also like when those family visits start. So everyone wants to come in immediately and see the baby. And we had our parents come like that next day to see her in the hospital briefly and then leave. So like, but that first week at our home, I don't remember exactly how many days it was, but we made sure that those first few days in our home, it was just Ashley and I. And that's not the right decision for everybody. But that was ours. So I would encourage everybody to, like, this is your baby. It's you and your wife. Just be protective of the things that you want.
And be intentional about that conversation.
Yes, and
like
we had that up front.
Right.
Yeah, we weren't like hiding this or, hey, last second, by the way, you can't come over.
I mean, one of the things we always talk about is intentionality in everything that we do.
Sure.
Be intentional with the community that we have around us, being intentional about those conversations.
Right.
So.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point, and I guess maybe, you know, even ultimately what we're trying to drive towards here in the conversation is with a new chapter of now, okay, I'm a dad for the first time, and I'm trying to figure this out, and there is that shift of my interests are changing.
Mm-hmm.
What's important to me is changing. My priorities are changing. My goals are changing. My vision's changing for my life, and there's just something special about holding that newborn for the first time, and you're just seeing the next 20 years laid out in front of you, all in one moment. It's unexplainable until you've been there for the first time, right? Mm-hmm. But so maybe going back to the question in the beginning, and I think Scripture is pretty clear. I mean, even from the very beginning, it says like man was not created to be alone. Like it was not good for man to be alone. Like we are very much created. I think that the evidence is overwhelming, even outside of a biblical lens, but even just in the ways that they've done studies and have been able to see like the oxytocin levels. I mean, from people that are experiencing like friendships on a consistent level. I mean, those have been very closely linked to lack of stress and lack of depression-like symptoms and those sorts of things. And so those that are living in a consistent community with people that they have built trust, I mean, there's a lot of positive benefits from that. But then you obviously can then go back and look at the scriptural evidence to support that. Do you think that we, as we'll say guys, do you feel like that word community, do you feel like we naturally do that well? Do you feel like we naturally try and find community in, we'll start there. Do you feel like we naturally do community well?
I don't. I think naturally we try to do community as like minimal to fulfilling that as possible. Like acquaintances over friendships, basically, as I think what comes most natural.
So what would be the difference between
to like a man's perspective? Yeah. Like, I got a lot of friends. Oh, tell me about them.
Sure.
Oh, well, I know this guy from here. I know this guy from here. What's his middle name?
We like having connections,
yeah,
maybe.
Exactly. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Hey, I know this.
Right.
It's all about who you might
I know big leaguers. I mean, we know a guy that always says that.
Do. Some of us don't.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I think that's super
totally
valuable,
fair.
though. What you just
Call
said.
me on it. I need it. That's why we're here.
Yeah, I've only been in a couple of them's weddings. Crazy, whatever.
Yeah. You weren't here.
I was.
I missed inside.
Sorry. Yeah, I'd love to be a part of one someday. So
there it is.
No, it's a super valuable question, though. Is like, what is the difference between an acquaintance and a friend? I'm not sure. Just because we get older, we naturally understand or are even able to distinguish between the two. But I do think there's some very key principles in that can help us as dads to know the difference between acquaintance and friendship. Like, what does that look like?
I've heard one guy describe it as how many people have refrigerator rights in your home.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good test as to how close they are.
Okay.
It doesn't mean they can come waltzing in your home, but hey, if you're in my house, like what's mine is yours. So like how many dudes are you giving that card to? Like when you're here, this house is your house. And then I think how many people do you have that you're inviting to challenge you? Like, hey, if I'm wrong, I want you to call me on it. Or if you see me out of place, you have permission to confront me about it.
I think that's the key, that word right there, permission, right? Like
that's good.
The whole refrigerator thing is kind of, I mean, I have 40 students in my house in the summertime, and I'm like, hey, the drink fridge is right there. Like, get what you need to. We've got students that go in our pantry and just grab snacks, so that's kind of a foreign concept to me because we try to do that with the people in our house. Anyway, but the permission, like it takes me, and I'll say trust along with that. So it takes me a minute to gain your trust. And if I give you permission to do something in my life, whether it's tell me something or point something out or accountability or to speak to me in a certain way, like I think for me, I'm trusting you with that. And so for me, that's kind of the line. Permission with trust is, for me, that's the line.
I think maybe a great way to break that barrier if you know somebody that you're like that you should it's worth inviting them into your life. And the best way to increase that trust, I think, would be to find something in your life that is most vulnerable or most sensitive, or that you struggle with, that you're maybe most ashamed of in your past. Because I think as men, a lot of times we hold on to all these burdens, and sometimes that's an honorable thing to do. Like if I'm bearing burdens for my family on their behalf, like I'm okay bearing as much for them so that they don't have to. But if you bottle it up so long and no one else knows about it, you can really there's pressure that starts to build. And so sometimes to break that tension, and I've done this with you especially, you know, sometimes it's like, hey, here's something about me I'm not proud of, or that's happened that I struggle with. And if I get off the rails, maybe that's why I don't, but you need to know that about me, so you know the full context of what I might be struggling with.
And I'd say too, like kind of going back to this community thing, like there was, whenever I found out that we were going to have a girl, like I kind of had this concept of, like I kind of feel like I knew what to do or expect if it was a boy. And then once I figured out it was a girl, like I immediately had guys in mind, like in church that maybe probably still would consider like acquaintance. Like don't really have like big friendship, but like I valued their perspective by the life that I've seen them live and the girl dad that they were, and made it a point to go and talk to them about, hey man, about to have a girl, it scares me to death, like help. And so that was part of like using that community that I had. Again, I still wouldn't say like I had crossed that line to be like, oh, hey, they're my friend, they're going to be honest with me. But I'm asking for, hey, based on your learned experience, what can you share with me about that?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, a quote I've heard on this that I think is super helpful is that the strength of a father isn't just in his hands alone, but it is ultimately in a lot of ways determined by the strength of the community that he brings around himself to raise his children. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. And, you know, there's a saying, you know, you show me your friends and I'll show you your future, right? And we talk about that a lot, and that sounds really good when we're talking to students, you know, because we're talking about the future. But like when you're an adult, you're the sum total of the 3 or 5 closest people that you have around you. And I think that who you have around you speaks volumes to the kind of person that you are ultimately trying to be. I mean, I think that it's, you know, it speaks volumes of you and, you know, the kind of father that you're trying to be, that you intentionally keep people around you that are willing to tell you difficult things. Yeah. Like it's okay, I think.
And
to have,
that's hard.
Yeah, it's not easy. Absolutely.
Like,
for sure.
And I'm not great at that, you know. So that's hard. Maybe I can pick your brain on how you do that, but you know, I think that is valuable. Again, I'll go back to like, I think trust is going to be a key factor there. You know,
in your mind, how does someone earn your trust? What's it take?
Proving it. And the reason, and I say that because, you know, I've had people that have tried to break into the Tucker vault and find out what really is going on in the head and the heart. And I've opened up on some things and then immediately has been destroyed by things, you know, because they've taken it and either twisted some of the words or they've shared something in confidence that I've told them. And so proving it would be one of the things. And unfortunately, it takes a little bit of time, you know. Rob's an example. Like, you know, Rob came in and he's like, man, I want to work student ministry. I want to do this. I want to get to know you and hang out. And
for a year. For a whole year.
But it took, and I don't know what it is. I don't have a defined answer on, hey, what that drop dead thing is that this will prove your trust. I think whenever there is the intentionality, I think when there is some vulnerability, you know, I think being, as cheesy as it sounds, like being present. Like we talk about being present with our family all the time, but as dads, we need other dads and other guys to be present in our life. And so in my life, I feel like I've had there are several people that are in and out, in and out, in and out. I've got a couple guys solid, other people in and out, in and out. And I know some of that's my personality. You know, I'm not always the easiest to get along with, and so I'm trying to work that. But so I think being present, proving that, hey, I want to be that person
and doing it consistently
for you. So let me prove it, but being present in that, hey, this is what I'm going through, rather than writing me off or not paying it. That sounds weird. This is kind of a vulnerable topic.
No, I know what you're trying
like,
to say.
But like, not writing me off just because I've always been the older one in all of the groups that I've been in. So I've always been that guy that people go to.
I was going to say, do you, and this could be a question for all three of you. I can't relate to this. Do you guys feel more guarded because you are naturally in a setting where people are going to come to
Absolutely,
you with their most
yes.
vulnerable
I would say for
details?
sure.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And just the nature of your positions, there's an expectation that you can help people, and that's what you're there to do. I mean, I get that, but
To a
you've
certain
got a lot
extent,
of people trying to get that out of you, I'm
Yeah,
sure.
you got to bear that burden with them, whatever they
Yeah.
dump on you. And that could be a whole lot of things.
Yeah.
And like, I'm kind of going back to like what we first said with like giving somebody permission to have that type of relationship in your life. But even when it comes to like having this community, like I just feel like God puts people in our life, and as a dude, we don't naturally let people have input, but it's like choosing to allow people to be resources in your life, like choosing to let people speak in, especially like what we're talking about with new dad. Like there's so many things you don't know until you realize you don't know them. You know, you get into it, and it's like whether it's fear, whether it's just like not having an answer in the moment. Like there's people in your life that are there to help you. You just gotta let them. And I think it's hard for us to view people as resources.
We want to think we have all the answers.
Yep.
Yeah, I think there's, I think naturally too we gravitate towards easy friendships, fun friendships that, we use to kind of escape the difficulties of fatherhood, or like the difficulties of, the super hard life that we have, instead of going, no, even my friendships should be aligned in the vision that I'm trying to create for my family. And, and again, and owning that and intentionally placing myself around difficult people, not character-wise or chemistry-wise, but just people that are willing to pick up the phone. I mean, it stinks to have that conversation, but you have to have that. Like if you're not having that, that's, you said permission. That would be what I would, and I've even said this to a couple of people in my life. They're super funny, and I love spending time with them. But we just never get to conversations that matter, that, iron sharpens iron, right? And like fatherhood is no different. Like it should be the same concept. And, and I even had to tell a friend of mine, like, love him to death. And, he would never take any of the advice or any of the difficult part of my friendship with him. And I would say, man, like, you're not really around right now for your family. Like there's a lot of stuff that I'm in love. I'm telling you these things. And like, he would not put any of those things into practice. And there was a moment where he was joking, back and forth or whatever. And he was like, dude, I just don't feel like you're around as much. And I said, dude, I haven't gone anywhere, but I do want you to realize, like, it has been a very intentional decision. My life, because of the things that I've made a priority to me, my family, my faith, like I just don't have a huge like space right now for friends that are just there to laugh and to giggle. Like I know that sounds, silly, but I need men in my life that are pushing me towards what God's calling me to, and that are helping me with that. And so if you're not gonna, sharpen me and allow me to be sharpened and sharpen you, and we're not becoming better at the pillars and the things that we've said we're, about, then it's not that I don't love you and that I don't, care about you. It's just that I've only got so much time in my day. Like that's kind of where that is. Like if that's what you want that to be, then that's fine. But we just naturally do. Like that'll never, like I would say that, like, community is never going to happen by accident. Acquaintance, that can happen by accident. but community, this idea, this concept of going, okay, this guy's along with me in this battle of fatherhood, this daily grind of fatherhood. That's going to require intentionality. It's going to be difficult. There's going to be times where you feel like you're getting further away, in your relationship, but it's because love, is pushing somebody, even if they don't necessarily feel like it, feels nice in the minute. Like, so there's just a lot there, but we naturally gravitate towards, I think, easy friendships to escape rather than difficult community to be propelled.
And you kind of alluded to something, like going back to maybe your question, like what builds trust? Well, part of that's going to be somebody that's willing to be in a fight with me. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is, like, I've had moments where there's been some, let's just say Rob and I've had some conflict, like where in the past there's been people that, because there's been some conflict, they've bounced and, all of a sudden kind of estranged. Well, I don't know what happened. Maybe we didn't agree on something, but now we're not as friendly as it used to be. But like, say Rob sticks through that, and I'll use you. Like, Rob and I've had some conflict before, and I've told him, like, and I still joke about the conflict even now. But like, there's something that he was right in his mind. I think he was wrong in his mind, but like,
no,
at the end of the day,
believe it.
yeah, at the end of the day, he was right in his action. I admit that you were right in your action. You did the right thing.
That felt really good.
Did it?
Yeah.
I want to know now.
Just because we have cameras on us, but like, even though we had that difficult conversation, and there was a moment of difficulty, like he stayed with it, and so to me, he proved it, right. And so going to your acquaintance thing, I think, as dads, yeah, it's easy to have that acquaintance and all of a sudden, we're there. But that true, we got on a weird topic all of a sudden. Like, you closed your book on all your
17
notes. 17
pages of notes are gone.
Anyway, but like, there is truth and some validity to having strong people in your life that are gonna stick through the thick and the thin, gonna be trustworthy, that you can give that permission with intentionality to, and develop some sort of foundational, hey, let's walk through this and grow through this together. And it's mature, it's pure, it's no motive behind it. I've had friends that have a motive behind being a friend with me, and there's no motive behind it. It's just pure.
What you're talking about and getting through those challenges, that happens in person, I would say, right? Like this face to face, we're going to get through this conflict, and we might be really bothered for a week or however long, but we like, if it's you and Rob, you come back together. And I think in today's world, community means social media and my friends groups, and we got all these group chats, and I might have friends in all these different places, and we all talk, we share our stories and stuff, and a lot of times, we're not always lucky. The people that we trust and love the most live in the same town as us, right? It's sometimes that's not possible, but there's a false sense of community based on how easy it is to have communication with people all over the world.
Right.
So having those people that are right there in it with you in person and getting through those conversations is key.
Robbie and I worked it out. We're fine.
Yeah.
Good. I think at the risk of not having an answer for this one, I think that's okay, because at this point we've.
Are you mad that we kind of shifted gears?
Really,
like, it just kind of went a weird.
No, we've thrown the same word around the whole time.
Okay.
Community. So I feel good about it.
All right, cool.
I didn't close the book out of frustration. I closed the book out of just like, here we go, let's do it. Let's rock and roll. We're confident. Right. We're men. We're doing conversation.
We're talking hard things, man.
We're doing friendship. So where do you find, like, where hey man, I just don't have a lot of these, the guys in my life that you're describing, this like high caliber, guy, like I mean, first step I would say, and I'll just throw the first one out there, is like, I mean, I do think there's an element of, I've got to be that guy. Like I've got to have my priorities in line. I would say if there's a guy that's a husband and a father and that's leading his family well, and he's just like always free, and you're just like, oh, like let's just go hang out together all the time, like, you know, we'll leave our wives at the house, like that's probably a red flag, even though it feels like a good thing. So where do you find, like, where do you find the community that you're looking for? How do you find the community that you're looking for?
Yeah, here's a softball question.
Yep.
Let me think about, where did I meet you three guys?
Yeah.
Lincoln High School, baby.
It started with Ty Clark inviting me into a church that I
Yeah.
finally needed
Yeah.
to find a home
That was
at.
this.
Okay, but
Yeah.
but let's like, all right, if they're away from
We knocked that one out the
family-
park.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
know. It's church.
Yeah.
But man, if Jesus is a common denominator, then that'll kind of fast track some things on truly like building a relationship, or like being able to establish some trust, have some people speak into your life, accountability, discipleship, things like that. But like for people that don't have like family close, or like job or life stage has caused them to move, like finding a church, establishing a church family first and foremost, like that will fast track community, because that's what it is.
So as long as they go to church, that's it, right? That's all I'm looking for. Show me your membership
So
card.
we're in a weird season now, and again with toddler and nap schedules, and it's really hard to get like several hours on a Sunday to stay as long as we want to at small groups and stuff. But it wasn't until we joined our small group where we met wonderful people like Dalton and all these other, and the people that come and show up at your door, you know, when you have your baby and when you have these big events. So if you walk into a church and sit through a sermon, and you get up and leave when it's over, and you don't stop and talk with these people or find that small group to go in, and then, because like for us, how many people on average is it? Over 1,000 people, we'll say, are in our church services basically every Sunday.
more than
really
10.
easy to walk in and walk out, and no one knows you're there or not there.
Oh,
So
we know
like,
you're there,
how do you
Blake,
find
you
that group of 10 or 15 or 20 or whatever the size is, where you can have more face-to-face one-on-one conversations and really get to know somebody?
Yep.
But I think you're looking for like, it's okay to have hobbies out in the community.
I'm not looking.
Yeah, you are.
Just asking.
No, you're not. I mean, it's okay to have hobbies. It's okay to it's okay to do.
Can we
things
still
in the
golf together, Ryan?
Absolutely,
Thank you.
man.
Find your local pickleball
Yeah,
club.
I think
build community.
Thank you.
I mean, you're
And
coaching 17 soccer teams right now because you have 5 kids. You know,
17, yeah. No, yeah, it's good. I think rhythms of life are are super important. I think, you know, chapters of life are super important. Finding those things, and then building commonality and building friendships based on the commonality of your foundation or what you want, not your interests, is a really good way. You know, I've always said, like, if you're genuinely being you and you are, you know, living under conviction and are, you know, not compromising, and I can't figure a way for us to be friends, that's on me. Like, you know, if you're being genuinely you, right? If I'm out there, you know, just wearing my tight jeans, you know, like I do, and, you know, Blake, you know,
You've gotten
that's
away
why we've
from
been,
them.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you've influenced me. That's
Community,
iron
man.
Iron sharpens iron. But you know, so if, you know, because it doesn't matter. Things are going great. Friendships, they're very important, and community, it's different than acquaintance. It's not going to happen by accident. Got anything else?
that's the end. Like that's how we were closing it.
No, that's why I said got anything else.
I don't. I mean,
I was excited to have someone else finish it.
As we, I think as we've said on several episodes, like, this is a really big conversation, right? And, you know, there's a lot of dynamics to it. There's a lot of, I mean, that's kind of why I like this particular group, because we are all in very different stages of life and kids, and so it's a big conversation.
Sure.
One of the things one of the verses that I was thinking about in Deuteronomy, there's this verse, and I think I don't remember the exact reference. I think it's chapter 1, verse 10. I don't know. Anyway, it's talking about how the verse says something about, you know, God carries us like a father carries a child, and he fights for us. And, you know, as we're doing this life together, as we're doing community, as we are trying to grow and understand our purpose as a father, understanding that the God of the universe who spoke the world into existence by the breath of his mouth is fighting for us, and he carries us like a child, like a father carries his child. And I remember and to me, that's support. And if I can help other dads in that fight and in that carry, and if I can help, if I got people that help me through that fight and help me carry that, as I got my Heavenly Father doing it, to me that's a win when it comes to community. So
That was a way better way to end it than I was going to do.
That was good.
sorry.
No, I'm serious.
That was awesome.
That was really good.
All right, you got anything, Blakey boy? That was odd. I'm not gonna say odd. Like, I wasn't
did say.
expecting the conversation to go that way.
Yeah. Was
It was good. It was refreshing.
It
I'm
was-
glad we did it.
It wasn't like a therapy session or anything.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
I mean, no. It could be the outro. I mean, it could be the outro of an NF album. I'm just saying, it was good.
All right, Ty, you got anything?
I'm
Rob, anything? Good. Hey, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening right here on the Every Dad Podcast.